So today we're very honored and happy to have Judge Eleen Nadelson doing her presentation on scams and how to protect ourselves, entitled Ready, Set, Stop. So Eleen?
Okay, good afternoon and thank you for coming to this presentation. Today we're going to be talking about protecting yourself against being ripped off. I'm going to by the way, let me introduce myself. I'm Eleen Nadelson. I'm a judge who is now retired from sitting in New York City. I now live in this wonderful town of Lewisboro, which I love. And before I went on the bench, I was in private practice, for about 17 years, mostly in commercial and corporate matters, which meant I dealt with people problems and corporate problems, solving those matters. And now today I'm going to talk to you about this thing about getting ripped off in modern day. And in order to do that, I'm going to introduce you to some four-letter words, not the ones that you're thinking of. But once you know those four-letter words, you're well on your way to being protected from scamming. I'm going to give you the tips on that. And that's what this is about. And to start with, first, let me step into some dangerous waters here and tell you that there is nothing more agitating, anger-provoking, frustrating, and debilitating than getting ripped off. I don't know anybody who stays calm after they've been cheated. So in the world of scamming, which by the way is not a generational thing, it's been around probably since man started to walk upright. The only difference now is with this modern technology, it's become more prevalent, and of course it lends itself to being more widespread. Now, the first four-letter word we're going to talk about is, of course, the title of this program, which is the scam. All right? And this is the tips I'm going to offer. In order to get you full into the idea of scamming, I'm going to give you two other four-letter words, and one of them starts with free. Listen up, there is no such thing as free. You got to get this. No such thing as free. There's always a catch. And in scamming, there's really just one little letter that separates you getting the information on how to spot a scam. One is the pitch, and change that first letter. The next one is the hitch. All right. With every pitch, there's a hitch. Okay. And if you know this, if you look for that, you'll be able to protect yourself. So let's talk about the free part. I gave you some handouts, and on the first page, you're going to see a whole list of places you can go after you've been scammed. Forget getting any service from that. I just gave you that list because that's where people go if they have a complaint, but it's really just for venting. They're not going to handle your personal complaint. You know, the Consumer Affairs and the FCC and the Attorney General, they don't handle separate personal scamming events. So it's really just a place for you to feel good about complaining about it. You're really on your own. You have to take that tip from me right there. But in case you want to, and if it is really widespread, like if it's statewide or if it's countrywide, and I have millions of people who are complaining about this, then it will be investigated. Not for you personally, but in general, they're going to investigate the particular fraudulent tactic. So it's really up to you to take care of yourself. Well, I want to introduce what I mean by there's nothing free. On the next two pages, which may not apply to you, we'll talk about that later if you have individual questions, but these things that I picked out is only as samples of what I'm trying to show you that is not free. The second page, which is one that I got in the mail, which is from, if you have the handout with you, is a proactive. You know, I sent this in the mail and said, oh, if you buy 2 of our products for $14.95, you get a free scrubbing brush. And I said, oh, that sounds like a good deal. Okay, let me check into this. Scrubbing brushes can be expensive. They're electronic, they vibrate, they cost over $30 usually. I said, for $15, I'm getting what I would like. So that's the pitch. If you're looking at the page that's talking about proactive products and a scrubbing brush, that's what we're on now. these are only samples to show you what I mean, but there's nothing free out there. This is the pitch, which is in the larger print is the pitch. The teeny weeny print is the hitch, all right? You're going to see this is what you get, and it sounds great. Now, I have something circled. If you see something circled towards the top, that's your hitch, all right? In that teeny weeny print, the next four-letter word that I want you to keep track of is read. You have to read. And if you can't read, or if the language is not yours, or you can't see that easily, you got to get somebody else to read, or don't do it. That's my advice to you, okay? Take it from the judge. You need to read. So in that little space that you're looking at, it says, this is an automatic renewal. We will send you our product on a monthly or bi-monthly for like $30, $40, I forget how much they send you, unless you tell us to stop. All right, so you have to read that. And unless you tell them to stop, which means you got to tell them to stop, you're going to keep getting this stuff, and you cannot complain about this because it's legal. In order to be legal, they have to tell you the hitch has to be on the page. So they have to tell you that these are the circumstances or the limitations. If they don't, then they're subject to fraudulent violation and fines, or if sometimes jail if it's very serious. But if it's on the page, it's legit. So if you don't read it, that's going to be your problem. All right? But in that little space, it's going to say, we're going to continue to send you our products unless you tell us to stop. And then when you call them up, and you do tell them to stop, they're going to ask you, well, why didn't you like the product? Does it work? Was there something wrong with it? It's a hassle. What I'm saying, it's a hassle. So you may not have to get any more or not pay for it, but there's nothing free with that scrubbing brush, okay? You're going to have to put up with that. And the thing is, this is a merchant. Remember, when you're getting an ad like this in the mail or wherever, this is a company that wants to sell you something. I don't know what merchants you're familiar with it, but they're not giving their products away, otherwise they're not staying in business. So there's always a catch to everything that you read. I will take you to the third page, another sample. It's just a matter of showing you what there is nothing free, which is, this is National Geographic. I like National Geographic. I subscribe. I think it's there's nothing wrong with these companies. They are giving me a free map, and I happen to like maps. So I said, oh, that sounds good, okay? They're giving me a free map, and I like maps. The pitch is what you can read, and you see the map. That's the pitch. What's the hitch? You have to read for the hitch. Think of it as always a hitch. It's right underneath the map. Can you see little tiny print right underneath the map? It says, underneath that, you have to pay $3.95 for shipping. It's not free. You're going to get billed $3.95 for shipping, and once you keep that map, you have to pay for it. It's legitimate because it's on the thing. They're not doing anything illegal, and it says so here. And if you didn't read it, that's not their problem. That's your problem. So you're gonna have to come up with that so it's not free, okay? So those words that I'm talking about have a lot for you to consider. Those are the two words you have to worry about: nothing free, and you have to read. Okay. Now, let me give you some other examples. Here's another one. This is Chase. These are all legitimate companies. Some of you get this in the mail. Mm-hmm. I get this in the mail, $300, if you put, okay, that's the pitch. That's the pitch. Now, what's the hitch? Okay, what's the catch to this? It's on the back. They say no service fees. You get $300, just open up an account with us. What's the hitch? It's on the back, which says, 1, you have to have direct deposit for something. So if you have a pension plan, a retirement investment, some kind of company that comes automatically to the bank, you have to have a direct deposit in order to get the $300. And there's no service fee on this account, and it says so on the back of this thing, but you need to keep $15,000 in the balance of the account for a minimum of 6 months. If you pull it out before 6 months, they're going to give you a service charge on that account, and you're going to have to pay it. It's legit, all right? So that's the hitch. The hitch is you got to give them a direct deposit, And you have to keep $15,000 for 6 months. Now, why does the bank do this? They're in business. They get credit, a lot of credit, to have the balances in their capital funds. That's how banks make their money. So if you have to keep you're not getting any interest on it. Banks don't pay what, 0.1%? 0.01%? You're not getting any interest on that money, but they are getting good interest on that money, because that $15,000 is in their capital funds. They're making money on it. It's a company, folks. They're not giving you anything away for nothing. They are making money on this deal. That's what scamming is. This is not a scam. This is more like consumer marketing, but it gets worse. I'm going to give you some others. This is the same thing for when you get those things for 0%, transfer your money from this account to this account. We're going to give you 0% for a year. You get those in the mail sometimes. It's a great deal. No interest. You could charge up for a whole year. No interest, even if you don't pay the bill. I think you have to pay the minimum, but there's no interest on anything for a year. Okay, what's the catch? That's the pitch. What's the hitch? Here it is what's the hitch on this one? This is that 0% transfer your money. You got to read the part that says, in order to get that 0%, they're still going to charge you 4% to transfer. They will charge you to transfer the money. So if you're transferring, let's say you have $2,000 in your credit account, and you figure, well, that's like 16%, and you want to transfer it to, instead of American, you're going to transfer it to Bank of America, and you get no percentage on that, that's a good deal if you can save that percentage. But they're going to charge you 4 or 5% to transfer it. So whatever you have in your credit card, $2,000, $3,000, $10,000, whatever, put 4 or 5% on that. That's how the company makes its money. They're not giving you a free account without something behind it. You got to get this. That's the important thing. There is no free. I'm trying to make this very, very clear so that you don't leave this room today without knowing that there's always a hitch. Always a hitch. The pitch and the hitch. It never comes without a hitch. Okay, this is another one that reputable companies. This is the New York Times. It's a reputable company. They're allowed to do this. This was a little tricky even for me, and I'm in the legal business. They're giving you half a year at 50% off, which is pretty good for the New York Times, because it's an expensive paper. So I looked at this and I said, okay, there's the pitch. Here's the pitch. It's 50% off. What's the hitch? Where's the catch to this? All right, you got to read for that. All right, and I looked on the front side of this. I couldn't find anything that was, untoward. I looked on the back side, and I read this part. It seemed everything okay with this, but here it is at the bottom on the back. This is where it says so on the back, which usually it's very common. Scams usually follow a general pattern, so they're all going to be pretty much the same. That's why these tips work, because once you get the tips, they're all going to be applied the same way. At the bottom of this New York Times offer, it says we automatically renew unless you tell us not to. So if you don't read this, you're going to think, oh, after the 6 months is over, they're going to send me a notice. No, you're not going to get a notice. It's going to go right into an automatic renewal, all right, for you to pay full price for the New York Times. Now, this is a consumer marketing ploy, more or less, so they're hoping that you're going to like the Times so much that you'll keep it, that you'll want to continue, and of course, it's not very, very effective for this kind of marketing, I don't think, because they can't charge you automatically. It's not an automatic out of your bank account. So if you don't want it, they could say, well, you read this, it's part of the deal. Didn't you read this? Well, yeah, you better. It's an automatic renewal. You owe us the $150, I think the Times is for a year. You owe us that money for the rest to continue the Times. If you don't pay it, what are they going to do? Sue you? They're not going to sue you. So you get off the hook that way. This is more like, let's hope they don't catch the idea, and maybe they'll love the Times, and they won't give us a hard time. Some people get scared, because on the phone, their representatives are going to say, well, didn't you read the offer said that it automatically renewed? They tried to make you seem like it's your fault. And maybe it is partly your fault because you didn't read it, but that's beside the point. They're going to really try to make you feel guilty so that you will be, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to pay this $150 because it's my fault. No, don't get hooked into that. Don't get into it's my fault. Some of them are not going to be easy to get out of if you don't read it. But some of them are. Like this Times, this is easy to get out of because they're not going to sue you for renewing their stuff. They're just going to give you a hard time. That's the agitation, anger, provoking part of it. All right, so the next thing is the one that this is the most dangerous of all of them. Mail, even telephone may not be. I'll explain telephone a little bit later. But the most dangerous of all the scams is online. It's emails and websites. These are the most dangerous. The reason for that is because these are your sophisticated scammers. They know how to catch you by language. As a matter of fact, I deal with PayPal. PayPal is probably one of the most reliable companies on Amazon, some of you deal. One of the most reliable companies on the web, all right? So most people automatically follow Amazon and PayPal because they really are secure companies. So I deal with PayPal. I pay my bills with PayPal a lot of times. I got online, in email, this was an email to me, from PayPal. They use the logo, number one. They're starting to copy the logo. They picture it and put it onto their emails. So you automatically think it's PayPal. If you look carefully, you'll notice the email's a little bit off, but most people don't really catch that. So I saw this, it came on my email. PayPal said, there's been a transaction for this $450 whatever. Click here, if there's a problem. I almost did that myself. It's the click in that's going to get you with the hackers. That click in is what does it. Don't click in anything on the online. Do not, I repeat, do not click in anything that you are not feeling secure about. Just ignore it and delete. Just ignore it, because if it is legitimate, if it really is legitimate, the company will follow up with a letter. They'll say, we haven't heard from you, but you will get some follow-up from a real company. You won't get follow-up from a scammer. So just click off if you're not sure. But I almost did this myself because I saw this and I said, wait a minute, I don't have a $450 transaction on whatever. I almost clicked in, but then I remembered, wait. So I called the company. I just got on the phone and I called PayPal and they said, no, it's a scam. They tell you right away. Amazon will do the same thing. You can get something from Amazon or one of those really reliable companies that everybody uses. I mean, scammers are going to use reliable companies, naturally. They're not going to use unheard of companies because you're going to question that. But a lot of us won't question PayPal or Amazon, all right? So call the company, and the company will tell you right away, it's a scam, disregard. So you could do that. You could check right away on the phone, or just click off and disregard it, and you'll get a follow-up. They won't do anything without doing a follow-up. Generally, these are scams. So one other thing I want to talk about is, I think I covered that there's no such thing as an emergency. This is the telephone. I said I was going to talk about it, take it on. The other thing is the telephone. People call you up and it's a nephew or a grandchild or a distant cousin, whatever, and they say, I'm in trouble, somebody stole my wallet, or I've been arrested, and they need bail. Some of you are going to get some of these phony phone calls. Do not have any kind of no discussion. Don't say, oh yeah, well what? How did it happen? No discussion. I'm giving you this point now. What you do is, in order to check it out, if they're scamming you, you play the scammer back. Play their game. Do exactly what they're doing. So you get this phone call saying, Grandma or Aunt Nils, I'm stuck in Idaho and I have no money and send me $500 as soon as you can. You say, or make up some story, you say, wait a minute, I have to call. It's an I can't talk to you right now. Give me your number, I'll call you right back. Click. They're not going to give you a number to call them back. You make up something. I can't talk to you now. Wait, somebody, I got to run. I have to go to the bathroom. I'll call you right back. Click. That's how you know it's a scam. All right? If it's not, you may recognize the voice, which is one way you can tell. Or if it really is legit, they will give you a number to call them back. All right? Just be careful about that number. If it sounds like a peculiar number, like it's way out 607 is one of those things, and you don't deal with that area code, then you might be going into one of those hacker numbers, so don't do that. But generally, if you scam them back by saying, can't talk now, they hang up. They know they can't fool you, they move on to somebody else. The last thing that I think we have time to discuss is I want to talk to you about actual purchases in the store, the storefront, the edifice, the structure. You can be scammed at a location, an actual building, and it happens sometimes. And usually, it's large purchases, like furniture or cars. Cars are a big one. Or some major renovation, generators, some large piece of property that costs a lot of money, all right? Not your everyday shopping foods and hardware stores, but major purchases. I'm going to give you a story that happened to me. It actually happened to me. Some years ago, I was still living in New York at the time. I'm up here about a year and a half. So I was still in Manhattan, and I was getting a couch. I wanted a couch for one of my rooms. And so I went into a furniture store, and I looked at one of the couches, and I was having it custom attuned to me. In other words, the couch was there, but I wanted a different arm, I wanted a different material, whatever. I was having it custom made for my purposes, and it was going to cost a lot of money to do that. Thousands of dollars to do that, all right? So I set it all up with the salesman, and then he gives me this bill of sale, which is usually on a sheet of paper. It looks just about the size, it's a bill of sale, has the company name, it tells you what you're buying, blah, blah, blah. And then they ask you to sign on the bottom, all right? Do not ever, ever, ever put your name, signature, on anything without reading everything. Never, never, never. All right, now this is your signature. That is deemed a contract by law. Once you sign it, you're held to it. There's no way out in the courts. Many people say, yeah, but Judge, I didn't understand. That's too bad. You had to get somebody to read it to you if you couldn't read it. If you didn't understand it, you had to take it home or think of it. Too bad. Under the law, once you put your name on a piece of paper, it's locked in place. Okay? So this was a contract with this furniture store. I was going to sign at the bottom. But I turned it over, since I'm in legal. I turned it over, which a lot of people don't. They just sign, this is the company and what you're buying. They just sign. No, make sure you read everything on the page. On the back were certain clauses, provisions, about 20 of them. 10 down this side, 10 down that side, in smaller print, all right? And I was reading them. You got to read them. I know you don't want to, but you better read them. So I got down, everything is okay. I got down to like 11 or 12 provision, number 11 or 12, and it said, in the shipping, it said, we are not responsible for any damages in shipping. That's what it said. I'm signing to this. We, meaning the company, is not responsible for damages in shipping. I said, well, that's not going to work for me. I want this thing coming in 100% good condition, and if it doesn't, I'm not paying for it, right? Well, you're going to have to replace it. He said, well, that's our they give you a hard time. That's our policy, these are our rules, this is the way we've done this for years, all that storyline, this is how we operate. Just pay no attention to that, all right? I said, well, then this is not going to work for me. I can't take the couch. And he says, I understand. And I got up from my seat. I was ready to sign this thing. I got up from my seat, and the minute I started getting up from my seat, he said, well, wait a minute. Let me talk to the manager, and we'll see if we can make an exception. Right? An exception. That's the way out into this thing. So the manager comes over, and he says, well, what do you want with this clause? I said, I want you to be responsible for damages in shipping, not me. Plus, I don't care if you hold the shipping company responsible, that's your problem, but the company and the manufacturer is going to be responsible for paying any damages. I'm not doing that. So I scratched it out. Now, granted, I'm a lawyer, all right, so I know, but this is what you could do in your own language. Do it in your own language. I scratched that and said, company and manufacturer are responsible for damage in shipping, not the purchaser. All right? And then and I wrote it in ink, not pencil because you can erase pen. I wrote it in ink, and then he initialed it in the margin, and I initialed it in the margin. That's legitimate in the courts. It's clear and accepted. So now I had a contract, the contract that had my signature on the front, which I signed, by the way, now is part of the clauses in the back, which if you didn't read, if that stuff got damaged in shipping, you could stand on your head and spit nickels. You are going to be responsible for that couch cost me about $5,000. I would be responsible for $5,000 of a couch that came in 3 pieces. Because I signed that I'm responsible for it. That's my signature on the bottom. You don't get out of contracts as easily as you think. Even though you say, it's not fair, Judge. That's not fair. No, it's not fair. It's legal. It's just legal. We don't do fair. All right? So I just want you to keep track of the fact that if you are conscious of there's a pitch and there's a hitch and there's never anything for free, and you must read. And if you do that, if you remember those 4-letter words, free, not, and read, you will not be scammed as readily as you think. You will spot it. You will keep away from it. You'll be one of the more educated consumers out there, which is what I want to make more obvious out there than is, because most people don't know this. I mean, let's face it, we really don't know this. Who knows this? People in the legal field, but most people don't know that. So now, spread the word. Tell everybody out there to know free and to read, and we can maybe eliminate a lot of the problems we have in the field of scamming. So, thank you again.
You're watching Lewisboro Community Television, Channel 20.